Aging is an extraordinary process where you have a chance to become the person that you always should have been. Welcome to Soulful Journey.
Soulful means something that's heartfelt, deep and profound. To journey means to travel from one place to another. This show is about deep and heartfelt discussions about where we are, where we're headed, and where we've been. It's a place where we highlight memorable moments we've had. This show is about everything and everyone that is good for the soul.
Welcome to another episode of Soulful Journey. And today we are going to be talking about aging, and we're going to be talking about the evolution of aging. And, I started that today's episode off with a quote by David Bowie, of all people, embracing the power and the privilege, right, of aging. Now, he's a man, and that's how he views it. But I wonder sometimes how women view aging, and is it the same? Well, I have an amazing guest today who we'll have an opportunity to talk about it, and if we can make aging good for the soul, especially if you're like me. And you've seen anti-aging creams and all this anti-aging directed towards women. And we want to just talk about it. But first, let's take a deep breath and let's focus, as we always do, on our breath. So if you'll do that with me. We're going to feel ourselves breathing in and feel ourselves breathing out without trying to control our pattern of breathing. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. And whatever is going through your mind right now, you can let it slip away. And just for this moment, well, we can come back to harmony because you are safe, you are accepted, you are forgiven, and you are loved. My name is Venus Jones. For those of you who may not know me, I'm an author, educator, and poet. And given the fact that I'm a poet, I even have a poem from my She Rose book that I thought about when I thought about my guest today. I thought about this poem, and it's called The Hot Seat. Now, it's one of those speculative poems. I don't want to tell you exactly what it means, but when I was reading it and we're trying to find the perfect poem for today, I thought about, when we think about the hot seat, we think about a lot of different things. But I'm going to see what Dr. Joyelle thinks about this poem. But here we go. It's called The Hot Seat. Walked into the shadow to escape the heat of humility. She was pasted with perspiration. He never knew her dreams, never saw her twirl or tango in the breeze, lost sight of her position. Her underarms dripped slow like streaming faucets. The myth, she's confident and dry. As she sat on the grill with no cushion, longing for a short skirt. In a daydream, she performed a sleeveless routine. Meanwhile, he removed his red tie and beckoned the waiter. He even unbuttoned his white collar as she gave a modest smile. With one nod, he granted her a choice of words. She said, "I'll have what he's having." He said, "I like you. You're really cool." That's how he became her fan. Okay, so that's a poem from the book She Rose, on a journey from girl to goddess. And speaking of a divine goddess, let me tell you, I have the one and only Dr. Joy L. But first, I want to recite a little bit of her bio for you. Dr. Joy L. Ballard is a board-certified OBGYN and a perimenopause health coach who encourages women to take a proactive approach to their health. She is deeply passionate about educating and empowering women to initiate and maintain healthy lifestyles, especially while aging. And she is the best-selling author of Loving Me, Myself, and Her Through Perimenopause and Beyond. So without any further ado, I want to welcome, I want to welcome this beautiful goddess, and she is going to share more of her wisdom with us and what she thinks about that poem I just read. What were you thinking, Dr. Joyo? What is that poem really
Venus,
about?
can I really be really transparent with you, right?
Okay.
As you were reading about the sweat dripping from her armpits, I literally was dabbing my own armpits. Real talk.
Well, while I was talking about how he became her fan, I have my own fan. You're here for two reasons, not just for my audience, you're here for me too. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. But yeah, that's just a poem called The Hot Seat. And some of us are going through the hot seat right now. So
yes, definitely. Yes. And the hot seat can be very hot. And
yes.
But yes, I mean, but it's temporary. It's only temporary.
Okay, well, I'd love to dive deeper into that, and this whole idea. I just want you to introduce yourself, maybe tell them a little bit more about how can it be temporary? How can we make perimenopause, or just the transition of evolution, because we're talking about evolution, the evolution of aging. How can that be good for the soul? Like, first define evolution in your. Let's start there. Like, let's start with defining evolution. Because I said, Dr. Joy L, what topic do you want to talk about? She was like, "Ooh, let's talk about evolution." So what does that mean to you?
Yes, when you asked me that, I'm like, "Ooh, evolution." I mean, that is what I do when I coach women to embrace the evolution of themselves, right? Like, and your platform, Soulful Journey, is very aligns with that, because what I want women to do is actually be able to feed their soul as they go from one point of their womanhood to the next point as they are aging. And that evolution, that embracing of the changes that their body and their minds are going through is so important to, not only to be aware of it, but actually embrace it. Because a lot of us kind of like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It can be very uncomfortable, but it's so important to really be the best version of ourselves. Really be that person that you are supposed to become, because where you were as a younger person is not where you're going to be as a gracefully aging person. So it's really important for us to embrace that transition from that younger self to our aging and better self.
Yes. So I'm all about personal evolution, not just with the body, right, but with the mind. And this show is all about that, like you said. So I'm glad you catch that. Like, some of my favorite heroes and sheroes are people who were told, like, completely almost 180 from, and I think of people like El Haj Malik Shabazz, who started off as like Little Red or Detroit Red or whatever they was calling her back in the day, or people like, but even women like Maya Angelou, who is another one of my favorite sheroes. I mean, she transitioned and went through a serious personal evolution, and I love that, and I like your definition. And I'm wondering though how you got into this, and what's your why for, because I know you have your own podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about your podcast?
Yes, definitely. So my podcast is called Midlife-ish, Slay Menopause Through Mindful Living. And I came into this space, this, whole perimenopause and menopause space, truthfully, for a couple of reasons. One, because, obviously I'm an OBGYN and I see lots of women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw so many women go through this change that they was, and I talk about, I have an episode on my podcast called The 5 Stages of Grief. And I watch women go through these stages of grief as they're going through this, this transition from denial, from anger, from sadness, and then ultimately to get them to accepting this whole process. And they were looking for information. They were looking for support. And I realized that it wasn't a lot of support out there for them. So I really wanted to create a space, with my book, with my podcast, for women to go to, especially women of color, because they especially are in a place where, they can have so many symptoms and they are not feeling heard or seen through this whole process. And that's so important as we go through this transition, to be heard and to be seen. So we can, like I said, go change our mindset around this whole process. So I really wanted to support women in that way. And it's also because of my own journey. My own journey started at the age of 39, where I was struggling.
Oh, wow. 39. That's early.
Yeah. And I did not like myself. I was like, who is this person? Who is this woman? And I really had to take a step back and do some self-reflection and change my mindset, and be more intentional about, really doing the things that I need to do in order to feel better in my skin. So that those are my whys.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your whys. And I could tell that, you are feeling so much better in your skin because, girl, you are here. Your skin is glowing. I got somebody in the chat saying this is great already. So I guess we are really, people are feeling it. So I'm glad that you feel that way. I'm glad you feel that you have grown so much just in this journey that you can share your knowledge with others. Can you tell us a little bit more about your book?
Yeah, definitely. So my book is, it's like you said, it's called Loving Me, Myself, and Her.
Who is her?
Yeah. Who is her, right? A lot of people, inquiring minds would like to know. So the her is actually the vagina.
Oh,
yes. Okay. Yeah, because a lot of times her gets ignored, until something's wrong with her, and they're like, okay, what can we do? What can we do? So I also wanted to bring light to the fact that there are definitely vaginal changes that happen as we age. A lot of women are, kind of taken aback, like, what is this like? And no one told me about this part of it. Yeah. So I really wanted to include that in the book, and I've called it Loving Me, Myself. Because again, for me, I really had to get to a point where I was feeling better in my skin and loving me again. Because like I said, I did not like myself. I did not like the way my the way I was feeling, the way I was acting towards my family, my friends, my whole life was just kind of turned upside down. And I really wanted to get to a place where I was showing, definitely self-love and self-acceptance. And that's why I called it Loving Me, Myself, and then Her. And I, again, wanted to provide a resource for women because, there are a lot of women in my office who were like, what can we read? What can we read about, this whole perimenopause, menopause thing? And I honestly didn't really have a favorite already on the bookshelf to say, yeah, go read this. And I'm like, well, you know what? Why don't you write one yourself? So that's what I did.
Well, there you go.
I wanted to, basically provide a resource, women to get more knowledge about what to expect. And also just to amplify the conversation, because this is a conversation that we just really don't talk enough about. So I really wanted to increase the conversations amongst women, mothers, daughters, friends, every woman's circle, to have more conversations around perimenopause and menopause and all the changes that happen with those things.
Yeah, and yeah. I'm glad that that you're willing to tell the whole truth, because it's true. We don't talk about it that much, and that's why I was like, okay, when I found you, I found out that you were, an expert, I was like, well, first of all, I just love your laugh. And I said, oh my gosh, just her laugh is good. So I was just like, oh, I love your laugh, Dr. Joyelle. And
Thank you.
I feel like, how do you laugh through it? You said that it's temporary, these changes that we go through. But then I'm wondering, is it? I was like, I saw like some people say 7 years, and
right.
And then I thought, is it really truly 7 years? 7 years of bad luck with me, like, because can we talk about like what if someone is going through, really like the hot flashes, the night sweats, all of that stuff, like,
right,
but still wanting to be their most powerful self.
Yes.
What do you say to that woman?
Right, exactly.
And how did you get through it?
Right, that's a great question.
You said you started when you were 30. I don't know how old you are now, but you look 25. But
oh, thank you.
Just saying.
I just turned 46.
Okay. So no shame.
Yes. So yeah, that's a great question. And, when I say it's temporary, and what I meant by that, not necessarily symptoms are temporary, right? Because yes, there are women who can go through these symptoms, anywhere from a couple years up to 10 years. And there are some women, unfortunately, can have hot flashes forever. I'm sorry, ladies, that disappoints you. Right.
Oh,
get your fan. But what I coach women to do is, even despite if all of that is happening, you can still find joy. You can still choose joy, choose happiness through this process. Because, the menopause is not only happening to you, but it's actually responding to you as well. And what I mean by that is, when you are going through these changes and you're like, oh my gosh, this is happening. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. This is uncomfortable. Your symptoms can actually worsen because you're stressing in that moment. So if you learn to just kind of, take a step back, take some deep breathing like you did just now, which was awesome. I'm like, woo, this is good. This is good.
Yes, permission to pause for the menopause.
Yeah, exactly. And that is my program.
I was doing that before this, but I'm glad to hear that it's really also about permission to pause, and I'm sure it's about eating right too.
Yeah, definitely.
Any tips on things we should all be eating? Right?
Yeah, what I typically promote is a plant-rich diet. I'm not here to, convert people to veganism, and, you don't have to give up chicken, because I didn't give up chicken. I'm like, no, I got to eat my chicken still. But really focus on just eating the rainbow. Like, if you look down at your plate, I want to see a whole lot of colors on it, right? So just kind of focusing on a lot more plants as opposed to, fast food, processed stuff, and all that type of stuff. So good whole foods, lots of colors, protein, all those things are important, because, the gut health is really important into even balancing our hormones. So definitely I recommend, plant-rich diet, and moving our bodies is also very important. We have to move, ladies. Movement. And I don't care what it is.
What song is good for your soul, Dr. Joy? What song makes you feel like you got soul?
Yeah, exactly.
What
movement,
song is it?
Any Beyonce song, okay? Run the World, Girls?
Oh, that's
yes. Okay.
Okay.
I be moving with that. No, give me some anything Beyonce. I'm on the floor. Okay. Hey. I am moving back. So yeah, any of that will be fine to get me moving.
No wonder. Because I saw Slay slipped into that title of that book too.
Yes, exactly.
What is
exactly. It's called Slay Menopause. Okay, Slay Menopause through mindful living. All right.
I got you.
Because I want women to slay. All right. I want them to slay in everything they do, despite these menopausal symptoms. You can still slay in everything you do.
I love it. I like to pray before I slay, but we slay still.
Exactly.
Hey, you gotta play. I'm all about healing words, but sometimes you got to go to battle.
Yeah,
you got to choose your battle. But and menopause is a battle we kind of have to. like we don't have a choice sometimes. But so for the men who are watching, if they still here with us,
exactly, they're
what
like,
are they thinking? Do men go
think...
through menopause though? Do men go through? Because I was talking to my cousin yesterday. He was like, I got a menopause. Do they go through it?
Yeah, there are some things out there that say, it's called andropause, menopause. They do experience some hormone. They lose their testosterone as they get older. But it's certainly not as dramatic as for women, obviously, because as women, we just we go through everything, right? We we gotta go through having our periods. We have our childbirth, and then we have menopause. Like we always got to have the the top line of everything.
I know, and that's why and this is why when I say with all due respect to every woman for that reason, let that be the reason. So yeah, but we go through it sometimes, sometimes monthly, and I give thanks though that I've never had like those really what they call it, where it's like debilitating or
painful,
painful. But I know some people do, and so again, I think you would probably let us know that again. Listen to your favorite song. What are maybe 3 tips? If you had 3 tips, what are some other things you could do if you're going through it, even with that?
Yeah. So I definitely can still go back to what you're eating, because what you're putting in your body physically does make a difference. So if you stay away from, because if you're eating what we call inflammatory foods, processed stuff, a lot of sugar, all that can cause more inflammation in your system, and that can cause the domino effect and causes more inflammation down into your reproductive organs, and that's why you can have more painful periods. So really being mindful of what you're eating around that time is important. Would be number 1. Drinking plenty of water, staying hydrated is also very important too, because when you're dehydrated, that also causes kind of like a stressful situation inside your body. It again leads into inflammation and, again, domino effect, and that compounds the pain that you're already experiencing from the, period cramps and that type of stuff. And then the third thing would probably be, like we mentioned before, really finding some relaxation techniques that, whatever you typically would do to kind of just relax your mind, relax your body through the process, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's yoga, any of those type of things, meditation, just to, be able to, relax yourself, I think is important too.
All right. Well, it's that time in the show where I have to ask you, do you have a show and tell item that we could kind of hear a story behind, or is there something that is sentimental to you that you have nearby that you could tell us why it means so much to you?
Yeah. So I actually it's a block. It's called, those little blocks that you find in the store that has words written on it, affirmations, things like that. So this one is called Choose Happy. And I bought this. I actually bought 2 of them. And I have it here in my office, in my home office, because I think a lot of what we go through, and, as women, we go through a lot, right? Whether it's personally, professionally, we go through a lot. And I think as we are going through these things, we have to remember that we do have a decision in this process of choosing what we respond to and choosing what we do in those moments. So I picked this Choose Happy because I'm intentional about choosing to be happy, even despite other things that I may be going on, choosing to find joy in things, because if you make that decision, and it really also just kind of goes down to just having gratitude. I think that's really what it boils down to, gratitude, being grateful for other things that, that you have, that you just kind of like don't think about as much. But if you have gratitude and just be grateful in the moment, like, you may feel like you're struggling now, it's women are trying to lose weight and, they're doing this, they're doing that, but you're grateful that you actually can physically move your body to exercise. You're grateful that you're able to, it's grateful that you have options to figure out what you need to do to lose that weight, just being grateful and choosing happiness and joy through that process, despite, the struggles that we may go through. So that's why it's, very important for me to look at that every day. To like, you may not be having a good day, but what happy moment can I think about? Or what can I do? What one thing I can do to bring myself joy? For me, it's like lighting a candle, listening to either gospel music, whatever that is, doing one thing every day to bring me joy. And that's what I, typically focus on.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because, it is a choice always, that begins with a thought. And I mean, what do you, but when someone is a woman and she's feeling like so much pressure though, to just be happy with aging, and the culture is telling her, not to be as bold as you are, to tell your age, and the culture is telling her, to color her hair because this grays are showing. What do you say to someone like that?
Great question. I would say, you're right. Like, there's so many, the society itself really is like, anti-aging this. Like, why we gotta be anti-aging? Like, don't we want to live another year? like we want to move on to the next year and seeing what that next year will bring us, as far as blessings and things like that. So there is definitely a lot of pressure to be a certain way, and look a certain way as we're aging. And for me, I ask myself, like, but why? Like, what I feel like I live not for everyone else, not for society. I live for me. So if I continue to choose me and do the things that make me happy, so if that's gray hair on my head, if that's a little extra love handles, whatever that is, I need to be comfortable with me, despite what everybody else feels or thinks or assumes that what I should be. I really advise women that they really have to get to a point to feel comfortable in your own skin. And that's a process. That's not something that happens overnight, right? That actually takes work. That actually takes, kind of your coaching yourself along the way. And again, it goes back to self-care and really being able to pour into yourself in order for you to feel good in your skin. Because if you are at a point where you're trying to please everybody else and taking care of everybody else, not taking care of yourself, that's where you kind of get caught up in that pressure of trying to make sure everybody else is happy about what they think of you and what they,
you have to choose your happy.
You.
Going back to your quote, you have to choose your happy. What makes you happy?
Exactly.
And I think that's probably why, because I'm still wondering. It's just a hypothesis that I'm wondering if a resistance to growing older, versus people who are embracing it more, is that correlated to symptoms of menopause or not? And I don't know if there's been enough study on that, but do you see what I'm saying? Like,
no, what do you mean
with mindset?
What do you
begin with mindset? Like, if you're like resisting growing older, which I think most women do in this culture.
Yeah, no,
would there be a correlation to that with what symptoms show up?
Right. So yeah, I don't think there's really actually studies to kind of make that correlation. And I don't think it, if you think a certain way and then that's when menopausal symptoms would happen. Because there's women who can have menopausal symptoms and still feel amazing, right? And that again goes back to choosing how you feel, choosing how you, for me, in the beginning, like I said, I was struggling. But I got to a point where I just laughed at myself, like, oh, I got little armpit sweat spots. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. And you just deal with it. You just start,
right.
You just start. I mean, I do feel like the more I exercise, the less. And so when somebody told me they go to the yoga, the hot yoga.
Yeah.
So you're already hot. And we've been hot anyway.
Right, exactly.
So I just feel like, okay. Well, I think sometimes you just get used to certain things. you kind of just get used to it. And like you said, it's just part of it. But I was just wondering, I just thought about that. But I want to ask you, I started with a quote at the beginning of the show. Is there a growing old quote that you like or that sits on your mind, or do you? Not really.
No, I can't think of.
Have you ever heard that poem? Because as I was talking to you, what's coming up? Because I have on this color purple, and I didn't wear this on purpose. But there's a poem about growing old, and called "I Will Wear Purple." Have you ever heard that poem?
No.
Oh my gosh, I gotta find it because I keep thinking about it while I'm talking to you.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard that.
It's something about when I'm old, I will wear purple.
Huh.
Even though I'm not old, but I like purple. Some people just like purple.
Well, purple means royalty, so.
Is that what it is?
Well, I mean, maybe, we're just growing into aging queens, I guess.
There you go. Because it's true, like when you get, the older you get, like, that's what I love about that first quote, even though it's by David Bowie. He says, you're growing into the person you always should have been, even though should can produce shame, somebody might say. But the idea of the person, as you're getting older, you're ideally getting wiser, but.
Right.
Mm. Yeah, so it's actually a poem by Jenny Joseph.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Let me read it to you.
Okay.
When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat, which doesn't go and doesn't suit me. And I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say, we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when I suddenly am old and start to wear purple. You like that?
Wow. I like that. I like that.
Choose to be happy now, okay?
Exactly. And really, and what speaks to me is that it's really just really owning yourself. Like, as you're growing older, like owning you. Like, I don't care what I can do. I know what I want at this point, and I'm gonna do what I want, despite what you think, feel, or what you think I should do. So really owning yourself, and loving yourself in that moment. So yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, I thought you would like that. That poem is definitely good for the soul. It's just, it lets you know that, that's what the pro of getting older is, that when you're older, like the whole grumpy old man or the grumpy old woman, it's almost like people just be like, oh, she can do that. She can get away with that.
Exactly.
So that's another cool thing, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me about a relationship in your life, that led you to this moment of success? And maybe is there someone that really helps you along your way?
Well, honestly, I got a coach before I actually started my entrepreneur, journey. Because that's also another transition for me, starting a business, which, as a physician, we are, I don't want to say brainwashed, but really kind of brainwashed to be like, you finish medical school, you go work for a hospital, and that's where you stop. That's it, right? So going on this journey of entrepreneurship was difficult for me, because I was afraid that, number one, I would fail because I didn't know anything about business, right? Like I know the doctor thing. I know that, back and forth. But starting a business and running a business, I'm like, I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, it happens.
So I really feel blessed I was able to find my coach who actually helped me start my business, because she has really been transformative in regards to me, not only helping me build this business, but actually help me change my mindset along the way. You talked about mindset earlier. Going through this entrepreneurial journey also requires another mindset that you have to go through, through that. So having that relationship, she's not only my coach, she's now a great friend of mine now, which, I didn't really expect. And I have to be honest, like even before I hired her, I was kind of hesitant about getting a coach because I'm like, I don't know if I really need a coach. Do I need a coach, or should I get a coach? And I'm so happy and elated, just so grateful that I did, because she really kind of helped me along my way in regards to building this amazing program that I have for women that I'm just super excited about, just bringing other women along with me to make that impact so they can allow also and then make their own impact in their world after kind of, managing through their menopausal journey. So yeah, I would say, definitely, my relationship.
Shout out to, what's her name again?
Yes, Dr. Kimmy, the
shout out to Dr. Kimmy.
Dr. Kimmy, the ultimate start coach. She's awesome. She's so
wow.
awesome. Yeah.
And it does help, to have, that level of help.
Yes.
On your journey. And you're not supposed to know everything. There's going to be things we don't know.
Right.
And I think that's the first step to growing up, is to be able to laugh at yourself. Right?
Yes.
And
yes.
to say, maybe I don't know this. I'm not going to take myself so seriously, and even believe that I can do all things, right?
Right. Exactly.
Do all things through who, but
yes.
I'm just saying at the
yes.
same time, it's okay to ask for help. And I think as Black women, a lot of the times, that's a little harder for us to do, because
yeah, definitely.
Historically, we've been
doing everything all the time. Exactly.
Like you said, that's your theme song. You gotta run it. We haven't had a choice to run it. So
right.
But at the same time, it's so great when you can find someone that you do trust to help. And so shout out to Dr. Kimmy. Okay.
Yes.
And right now I just kind of if there's someone who's watching who's like, oh my gosh, she's an OBGYN, that's what I want to be. Is there something that you would say to that emerging shero?
I would say that is awesome. Definitely need, there's always babies being born, right?
Yes.
So OBGYNs are, exactly. Always necessary. But what I would tell her also is that even through your journey of getting there, do not forget to put yourself as your top priority. Because I think for my own journey, that got lost as I was going through my journey, as an OBGYN and as a mom. So I really want to, tell especially younger women to really have self-care as a integral part of their routine, because I think that's very important to learn early on, as opposed to when we're in our 40s. So as you're going through the journey of college and medical school and all that fun stuff, don't forget to again finding stuff to pour into you, so you're able to pour out into the tribe and the world that you want to do.
Yeah. Oh, here's a soul question for you. What's the biggest lie someone told you?
The biggest lie?
Yeah.
That I wasn't going to be a doctor.
Biggest lie you were told. What was it?
That I wouldn't be a doctor.
Wow.
Yeah, you from
they were wrong. I guess they were wrong.
You from that neighborhood? Like,
Can I say the Morocco? Yeah.
Like you
have insulted me. You need to go back and tell them. But no, you're not even thinking about them right now until I just asked you that. Right.
Right. It's like, whatever. That just fueled me. Like, okay, I'm going to show you.
Was it a family member? Can I dive deeper? Was it a family member, or was it like just a teacher, or?
Yeah, it was more so like things heard from, family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes that's the hardest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you did it.
I did it.
And that little girl who's watching, she can do it too.
Yes,
she can.
You
never know. And I guess one of the most important things I always think is to consider the source, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people never leave their neighborhood. They never.
Right.
And not that there's anything wrong with that. Like sometimes people want to stay planted, but if you are going on a journey, somebody says you don't ask the person who never left the village, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad to know that there was someone in your life who kept you going even after that was said to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you just like brush it off and be like wanting to prove them wrong? Because that was me. I always like, if someone told me what I couldn't do, I was the type of person like, oh, I'm gonna show you, right?
Oh yeah, I was definitely that. Yeah,
or you just so happen to just find the right mentors. What happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it was more so I'm gonna prove them wrong. And my parents were definitely like, Joyelle, you got this. And in my journey, to medical school, it was not the straight journey. Like I was not accepted the first or second time I applied. So it wasn't like I went
the second time, not the first.
So I applied. So technically, what happened? I applied the first time, didn't get in. I applied the second time, didn't get in. But then I was ultimately offered a position, what we call a post-baccalaureate program that allow you to take some classes for a year, and then you're automatically accepted to the year after that medical school class. So that's how I got into medical school. And I worked, in between that. So I didn't take a straight, arrow journey from, college to medical school. I took a couple turns, and I got there. And, again, to say like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm going to keep going until I get there.
I'm so glad you kept going.
Yes. And my family was definitely my parents. And then I have younger brothers and sisters that I also was, I felt like, being a leader. And I need to, definitely be an example for them. So all of that just inspired me just to keep going.
What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Pink? Why?
It's bright. I don't know. I just like it.
Well, someone, I think it's Urel in the chat says your dress is amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's actually a shirt, but thank you.
Oh, yes. With the ruffles on it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you look beautiful in that white too.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I wanted to ask you, have you ever thought about, well, we all think about it from time to time, that time is limited. And if there was like a quote or a 6-word story or a phrase that you would want to put on your headstone, given, you want everybody to know your soul is at rest, what would it be?
Ooh. Yeah, given these last couple years, I have thought about that, right?
Right.
And that, yeah, and wanting to leave a legacy for my children is, definitely very important for me. So what I would wanted to read would probably be, Joyelle, a wife, mom, daughter, sister, whose smile and spirit lit up the world.
And that laugh.
Yes.
That laugh. That signature laugh. I love
Yes.
it. It's
Yes.
so, yeah. You do light up a room. You light up a room with your joy. And I think even with that name, Joyelle, but it's not
Yes.
just joy, it's Joyelle, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So some people get it twisted, and do you correct them?
Right.
Because you're the only Joyelle that I know.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes.
Your mama named you Joyelle?
So it's the story behind the name is my mom's name is Joan and my father's name is Michael. So they took the J-O and the E-L and put it together and stuck the Y and the apostrophe. I'm like, okay. Y'all was being real creative.
Cool, all day. So yes, so I love it. You're the only one that I know of.
Yes.
Because it's almost like maybe you've had to think of this, but maybe not. Because it has almost like a Christmas ring to it, like Noel.
I know. Yes.
Yes. Have you thought of that?
Yes.
They were thinking Noel, Joel.
Yes, and everyone always assumed because of that, my birthday is in December, and I'm like, no, I'm a July baby. Oh, you must be a Christmas baby. Like, no, I'm a summer baby.
Joyelle. Okay.
I was my parents' first child, so I just brought them joy.
Yes, and you're still bringing joy. Are your parents still here with us?
Yes.
Well, you're still bringing joy to your parents and your peers. So, oh my goodness. Well, I'm so grateful that you would join me today. And if people want to get in touch with you and find out how you might be able to coach them through premenopause and help them love themselves and her.
Yes. Don't forget her.
What's the title again?
Loving me, myself, and her.
Me, myself, and I. But normally they say, but it's me, myself, and her.
Right.
How can they get in touch with you?
So they can get in touch with me through my website, drjoyel.com, DRJOYEL. You can also order my book through there, an autographed copy of my book through there. And then they can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Dr. Joyel, DRJOYEL. And like I mentioned before, my podcast is out there, Midlife-ish, Slave Menopause through Mindful Living on all your listening podcast apps. So yeah. Thank you so much, Venus, for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, I really enjoyed you coming on the show and just, being able to bring your joy-elness and just that laughter and just remembering to let us all, remember the importance of choosing happiness. Right?
Yes.
I love that brings you a sense of being a sense of mindfulness by just looking at that daily and remembering the importance of the choices.
Yes.
So I'm with you and I'm excited and I'm going to just say goodbye for now. I don't like saying goodbye, but I'm going to just goodbye for now and just say thank you again for being willing to remember, help us remember our spirit and how much the evolution is really just about choosing happiness every day.
Yes.
So
thank you.
Yes, and eating those vegetables, as many colors in the rainbow.
Exactly.
Okay, Dr. Joy. Okay. Well, that has been another edition of Soulful Journey, and I hope you do check out Dr. Joyel and look into getting that book that she has, or at least listening to her podcast sometimes. She's amazing, isn't she? So next week we will be back, and I want you to know that we have a special guest. He's a poet, and I'm really excited to chat with him. And right now, if you can, just make sure that you, follow with the thumbs up, or share this with someone who's going through menopause and maybe sitting in the hot seat daily. Okay, and just make sure that you continue to remember to take care of yourself. You can find out more about me at venusjones.com, and if you can do this for me, it would just mean the world. Just make sure that you keep looking up and keep looking out, because when we do, there's a lot less fear and there's a lot less doubt. Until next time, remember, you are loved.